Good afternoon and welcome to a webinar from Linköping University. I'm going to start this quite slow so I'll give the attendees time to join us. My name is Therese Winder, Communications Officer at Linköping University, and I'm going to guide this conversation where we're going to learn a bit more about the academic side of studying one of our science and engineering programs. I've got three guests with me who will introduce themselves shortly. But before we start, I just want to say that we are going to talk for about between 20 and 30 minutes. You'll hear the perspectives of two different students and a bit of the expectations from one of our teachers. And then we're going to stop and open up for questions. And we would like you to put your questions in the Q&A section, because that's where we'll be looking. So if you use the chat function, we won't see your questions. Yeah, I think, and this webinar is being recorded. And this first half, so our discussion will be posted on the web later on, but the Q&A will only be for those of you who are here now watching live with me. Right, great. Let's start, I think. Welcome. Adam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I can go first. My name is Adam Graychek. I am a second-year master's student in the Intelligent Transport Systems and Logistics program here at Linköping University. I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio, and I graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Engineering.
Thank you. Sandra?
Yes, hey, welcome everyone. So my name is Sandra Knopek. I'm from Brazil. I am also a second-year student, and my master here is Industrial Engineering and Management, and my specialization is innovation. And my bachelor I did in Brazil, kind of 8 years ago, and in electrical engineering as well. So yes.
Thank you. And David, or David, as we say here in Sweden.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is David Granlund. I'm a senior lecturer here at the Division of Communication and Transport Systems at Linköping University. I'm working in a research group called Data-Driven Transport Analysis, working with research on how to use mobile network data to predict human movements, for example. And I teach in positioning systems and statistical learning for the transport and logistics program, for example.
Right. Sounds like your research area is very topical at the moment, where people have been trying to see movement patterns with the pandemic. Yeah,
it's been very used in this analysis of COVID-19 mobility patterns. Yes.
Yeah. Great, thank you. I think I'd like to hear from Adam and Sandra. You've both been here nearly 2 full years now, but what was it like when you first arrived that August in 2019, was it? The first few weeks, what were your impressions? Sandra, would you like to start?
Yeah. So first of all, I came here 1 week before start my program because I can plan everything. I can be familiar with my neighborhood, the university as well. So I had time to set up everything, to buy something that I needed and go to university to pick my keys as well. But about the university, first impression was really nice because it was very well organized. And one important thing, the roll call is one event that everyone should participate, because if you do not, you lose your spot. So it is really important. But the first impression is like very well organized institution. It's very easy to find information, go to library to pick your stuff. So it was really nice.
Great, glad to hear. Adam, I should say, by the way, that Sandra, you are based at Campus Valla, which is here in Linköping, whereas Adam is representing Campus Norrköping.
Yeah, I'm based in Campus Norrköping. I think Sandra had a better approach in terms of the first week. I came just maybe a few days before roll call, and in that time frame, you're trying to really get used to your surroundings and also your program and everything that's required of that. So I really do recommend coming a bit earlier to kind of get acclimated with everything there is, like the bus system, where you can get things like groceries or supplies for your apartment, for example, and really get your ducks in order so you can be prepared for your studies as soon as they start. I felt a bit more overwhelmed because I hadn't prepared as much.
That's a great piece of advice. So the roll call is mandatory. We cannot stress that enough. It's mandatory. If you're unable to make it, you need to contact your program coordinator. But if you just fail to show up, you will lose your spot, as Sandra said. So what about the classes? So I suppose you had a lot of fun at the beginning, getting to know people, welcome activities, but then the classes started. What were they like? I mean, what was your first impression of the Swedish academic style? Do you want to go on, Adam?
Yeah, I can go first. I really like the way it's structured. We have in the engineering programs, we usually have some sort of combination of lectures, seminars, and labs. And the lectures are for about 2 hours long, and you have about a 15-minute break in between. Usually this is when you get time to get fika and grab a cup of coffee. And this would be right around 3 times a week or 2 times a week. And then there would usually be a lab component also included sometime in the week. And this would be a longer period of time, maybe 3-4 hours to actually work in a group, for example, really work through the projects at hand, go through a bunch of different questions, and then have to write a report. And so I really like the combination in my program of the lectures that you're sitting and you're listening to people like David, for example, really talk about his competency in the subject matter and learn from the professors, and then really apply that in the labs basically every week. This is a really nice component of my engineering program. I believe Sandra has a bit more discussion based included in hers, but mine is mostly with the lectures and the lab material.
Okay. Yeah, Sandra, because you have an element of management as well in your program.
Yeah, because my program is more related to management skills and management area, and it's a bit different because my specialization has 3 specializations options: operation, quality, and innovation. And I choose innovation, but I believe quality and operations, there are more labs, but my program is more seminars and lectures, 3, 5, 4 times per week, and during the mornings and in the afternoons as well, but depends, I think, on the program. But I have a lot of discussions, lectures, and seminars, and it was a nice composition because you can get information, and after that you can discuss and work with your colleagues in the groups. So yeah, it was kind of a mix.
So your lectures are also around 2 hours with a 10-minute break, or?
Exactly, yes, 2 hours and 15 minutes break. Yeah, sometimes you start at 8 when it was in person on campus, but yeah, and online as well. And sometimes you start 10, sometimes 13, 1 p.m. or 15. Yeah, it was quite hard, not so often that I had lectures 5 or during the evenings, but some labs, when I did one course specifically in quality specialization, I had one lab at night, but the majority of the courses were in the morning or in the afternoon.
And what was different compared to your previous studies in Brazil?
It's quite very different. In Brazil, like we have more specific lectures, and I didn't have discussions and work group at all. It's just lectures, and you have exercises like a to-do list, and after that you have some exams. And the lectures, it's not like we're not like here just 2 months. It's almost 5 or 6 courses during one semester. And here we have 5 courses, but 2 or 3 in the first period and more 2 or 3 in the last period during the semester. In Brazil, we have everything together at the same time. And in the end, we have a big exam. And here we have different times to get the exam, to take the exam. we have 3 chances, and it's quite impressive. So yeah, in Brazil we have just once, and if you not pass, you need to do after 1 year again. And here we have 2 chances to do it. So yeah, if I compare this part, is a bit easier, or we have more chance at least.
Mm. How about you, Adam? How is it compared to studying in the US?
I would say it's very similar to how Sandra described. We would still have labs in our course components, but most of it was actually the lecture content. And then there would be some sort of testing upon how much knowledge you could build from your lectures, memorizing different things or learning different like math equations, for example, and really testing that in exams at the end of the year. The big difference with the examination in Sweden is, as Sandra mentioned, you have multiple times to really retake the exam if you don't get a grade that you like, or if you failed the test altogether. In the US, that was very different. If you failed the test, it would be part of your overall larger grade in the class. And it wasn't considered as something that was separate. If you got a bad enough grade on a test that sank your course grade, then you would have to retake the course altogether. So that's very different here. You don't have to retake courses necessarily. It's more if you get a bad grade on a test, you can retake a test 2 or 3 times, I think, 3, until you pass it. And that's really nice to really have that sort of redemption for getting the bad grade in the first place.
So what are the different types of exams?
In the US, we would have like midterms and final exams, and here it's pretty much a final exam for some courses. Other courses are project-based, so that would be your final grade. I'm working on some sort of larger project with group members, and then maybe a few other smaller grades in between. But it's either usually project-based or exam-based here in Sweden.
And Sandra, is that the same for you?
I have multiple types of exams. I have real exams, like when you need to study and go and to the specific room to do the exam, or now it's online. But I also have projects, seminars that you are also evaluated, and also a project work group that you need to deliver. Like it's still small, but it's still a project in the end. So yeah, multiple types of exams.
So it's different, yeah. And then David, from the teacher's perspective, how would you? What's your best kind of piece of advice for students to succeed with their exams so that they pass the first time?
Well, that's the golden question, I think. But of course, there are a number of things to take into account. I think one thing is that you work by yourself in between the scheduled sessions. So only even if the technical faculty, we have more scheduled sessions than in the philosophical faculty, but still there's a lot of time in between that you need to work with the material. And that can also depend. Later in programs, you typically have less scheduled sessions, but you still have a lot of work to do in between, working more with project-based courses, for example. But I think the first thing to do is to come prepared and on time for classes. That's the first thing. And then taking responsibility of reading the material so that you can prepare for what you need to do. And then outside the classes, work with material on your own. And I think that one difference compared to some other universities or countries with different cultures is that we work a lot in Sweden with active learning. Which means that the students should work with the material to build your own understanding of the topic related to what you have learned before. All students have different backgrounds, so that's something that understanding you have to make on your own. And there is actually one analogy that I like a lot, and that's the orchestra. Comparing the teaching with an orchestra. So there's one leader or conductor of the orchestra, which is in the courses I have, it's me. But when just by having the leader being active, nothing happens around, right? There's no sound, but the magic stuff starts when the orchestra starts playing and being active. So that's a key component in teaching at the university. So that's important to work on material on your own.
I've heard this from others, the difference in, one, the active part where you're expected to not just sit back, listen to the lecturer and then repeat kind of what you've been told, but also working in groups with others where you have to rely on others for your own success. How have you found this compared to, I think this is quite uniquely Swedish. How have you found that, Adam?
In the US, we would have group work as well, but it wasn't emphasized in the same way here. I would say it's almost, in my program, group work is as equal to individual work in terms of the amount of hours and the amount of grade you receive for different aspects. I really think that group work is essential for the programs here.
Yeah, I agree. And it's quite different because when I arrived here, I need to get used to work in groups. And now I'm doing my master thesis alone. So I need to come back to how to learn how to do by myself everything. But
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yes, but work group, I think, is a really nice challenge as well. And it's really important learn how to manage to work in groups, because in the same group can be a lot of different cultures, different peoples from different backgrounds as well. And it's really important to, from my perspective as well, because I had some trouble in the past with my work groups, because everything depends on your ambitions and how you would like to work and how much you want to learn. And I always try to get some kind of group contract, or at least have an agreement with everyone in the group to work in the same direction, or to achieve the same object, the same purpose in the end. Like if you want grade 3, 4, or 5, or A, B, C, it's good to have the same understanding and to be in the same page, and then we can develop even more in the work group as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how, David, you've in your teaching, does this, is this your picture as well? Is it difficult to get new students to understand this dynamics and to kind of realize that everybody has to participate at an equal level? Just because you're in a group doesn't mean that it's easy, because that somebody else is kind of pulling you along. David?
No, I think that it's quite clear, and I seldom see it as a problem in my projects. And I think there are two types of project work. One is you get specific, the assessment is maybe a project report or solve some kind of larger assignment together. And that's of course one type of project, but there's also a lot of work where you work together to explain to each other, work with exercises together, and this kind of collaboration is also quite important for the learning process. But it's not a major problem. But of course, we as teachers have our methods to identify if students are not contributing to a project and so on. But I will not reveal all of those today. Maybe
your trade secrets. Yeah.
But in most cases, students are in general very interested in trying to solve this project, and it's also, most students find it fun to work jointly on this kind of assignments, and then people try to contribute as much as possible. And problems arise if there are mismatches in, for example, oh, I thought I could work 50% besides my studies because I have so little time scheduled, then of course there becomes a clash, because even if it's only some parts that are scheduled in your schedule that you see online, you still need the other times to book meetings with your project colleagues and things like that. So that's the rare cases when the problems show up, I think.
Yeah. So it's kind of, even though it doesn't look like you'll be very busy sometimes, depending on your schedule, it is really important that you realize that what you see scheduled isn't all of it. There's a lot more. How have you, I mean, have you got any tips on how to manage this kind of own responsibility, for example, Sandra?
In work group, do you mean?
Sorry, yeah, the extra,
extra.
No, the extra. Yeah, the studies. Yeah, exactly. So you have the schedule time, but then the discipline or setting up some kind of your own schedule, or how to manage the fact that you are not, you're expected to independently learn and actively.
So everything is about balance, because besides your studies, you also need to go to the grocery, you should do your laundry, you should cook, you should at least breathe some fresh air. But I, from the beginning, I try to have like a schedule and what I should deliver every week, so I can have like a big overview, which one is you get most from me, like which one I need to put more effort. So then I like have a schedule to, okay, I will spend this time of amount in this subject, and this one that is easier for me, maybe a little bit less, and I try to have everything in balance during the week to at least enjoy a bit in the weekends. But for me, I for sure can say that I study much more than 40 hours per week. And also in the beginning, I got some advice and help from my student advisor, and she helped me how I can manage these kind of things a little bit better, and to have everything and finish everything on time. And she helped me as well.
I can make a comment as well. I think that's quite important to try to schedule this, and also schedule the rest part, so you don't. And even if the Swedish semester at the technical faculty is divided into 2 parts, so it's only 10 weeks each, it still gets very, very busy in the end of these 10 weeks. So a good recommendation is to try to start early, even if there's not so much material in the beginning of the course. You still have to work with it early, because then it offloads a little bit at the end of these 10 weeks when you have maybe multiple exams, and then there's also a project that you have to report and things like that. So even if I think that this division of the semester into 2 weeks helps, it's still, you need to be very active in the beginning of the courses as well, in order to avoid this overload at the end of the periods.
And there are, I should mention, study counselors who can help you with their advice on and how to set this up, because I think you're raising a really important point, that you don't leave it till last minute, because there will be too much. Adam, how do you, I mean, have you got any tips?
I often block out time for everything, for classes, for time that I'll be working on different studying or projects, time that I'm meeting with people, time that I'm doing laundry. I mean, I think that's the most efficient way. You can kind of see a really clear picture of your week and what's going on, and really keep yourself to a schedule that, you get a notification on your phone, like, hey, you should be working on this, like study this, or time for dinner. Like, I don't know, it's very programmed out, but it's very helpful in managing all the different aspects of the program, your busy social life, your cooking and cleaning and laundry and everything. I really recommend blocking out time for every activity.
Yeah, this is really good. Don't believe on your brain, on your mind. Have everything scheduled, then you can remember what you should do and when you should deliver. So it's really important.
And if for some reason that doesn't happen, like you're not feeling it that night, like you don't want to study, then fine, don't like be harsh on yourself. But it's nice to at least have that kind of reminder that you should be maybe doing something right now, or maybe you should not. You know, it's very nice having that structure in the week.
Good, that's great tips. Something else that I've heard from other students is the relationship, the informal relationship between students and their teachers. And I think this is, you know, we don't do Mr. or Ms. or Mrs. You know, we do first names. So I mean, how was that different? I mean, how did you? Was that a bit of a hurdle to overcome when you came here, or Sandra?
No, because in Brazil we don't ask the teachers with this first name. In United States, I think it's just with the surname as well. But yeah, it's kind of informal here, but they are still your professor, they are still your teachers, so you can approach them when you need some help, some guidance, but they still some kind of they can put you in the track, they can give you the direction, they will not give you the answer, but they will try to help you to find the answer. And this is the informal way, make things easier. But yeah, of course, their teacher and your students is still in the same way in my country. Yeah.
Adam?
I personally really like it. It's a bit more formalized in the US in comparison to Sweden. I think Swedish society in general is more equal. There's less of this hierarchy that exists. So this also exists with professor and student relationships, but as Sandra was saying, they still are your professor. So there is still a level of respect that you should be giving them in terms of their time and what they contribute to your studies. But I think the really nice thing about this sort of relationship is you can build better communication with your professors and even find out what they're working on. Maybe it's something that's interesting to your field or your background and you'd like to learn more. It's a very nice relationship to really get to know more and discover more in your specific field, for example.
And David, what's your perspective on the I suppose on the surface very, very informal culture?
Yeah, I mean, being a course examiner in Sweden, that's an exercise of public authority. So it's a very formal task that you have. But also, I mean, we together with the students have a common goal, and that goal is to learn as much as possible about this course topic. And this also requires cooperation. And I think Swedish lecturers in general, they don't worry so much about, you know, titles and how people address them, but it's more on I mean, still it's the same. You have to be polite and all that stuff, but it's not as formal as in many other countries, perhaps. But the requirements are still the same, that you have or maybe even higher, that you have a higher responsibility on your own to actually contribute to learning. It's not that you only get told what, okay, this is good, but you also have to process this on your own and take responsibility for actually understanding what we talk about and contribute to discussion, for example, in seminars and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
no,
I met several hundred students, international students over the years, and I've never had any problem with one being too, you know, friendly or something like that. But I think that might be the other possibility that people don't come to me because that you don't see. So it's typically not a problem.
So it's interesting. So we have this informal. But one thing I would like to highlight is the importance of being on time. Because I think in Sweden that is more important than in many other countries.
I agree.
Yeah. We're going to open up for some questions, but I would like Adam and Sandra to kind of, one of the best things of studying here, the academic side, but also what has been the biggest challenge? Sandra.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I really like is this kind of informal way that you have the freedom to meet new people from different backgrounds, because the atmosphere, the environment is very international, so you can learn from different perspectives, from different backgrounds, and this really makes me really happy, because when I come here, this is my first intention. I want to get some international experience, and it's really impressive. The university is really well organized. The high quality of the courses is impressive as well. And the challenge, yes, adapt to the weather. The first winter, I think, was a bit hard, especially in November, but after that, yeah, you get used to that. So yeah, this winter was much easier, even if it's snow more than last year. I already missed the snow, but yeah, it's quite a challenge from the first time, because in Brazil we don't have snow, and here the first year we didn't, but the darkness is a bit. So take vitamin D every day.
Yeah.
Yes, the importance of vitamin D. Yeah. And academically, what has been the biggest challenge?
And I think the work group for me was a bit hard from the beginning, because we need to language as well, because some people speak English very well, some of them is not, and the writing is a bit hard sometimes to understand a bit. But I think when people get used to that, things become easier. So I think it was the most challenging in the beginning, but right now it's totally fine. Yeah.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, I would say the same advantage as Sandra mentioned. I really like all of the collaboration, but I mean, she kind of already honed in on that. So I think the other thing that I would like to add is that it's nice as an international student coming to Sweden and having this education where you're learning, but then also when you're not in the academic setting, you're still learning all the time, because you're in a completely different place and a completely different culture, different language. So you're learning inside and outside of your academic field, which is really awesome. I really enjoy that aspect. And I think the biggest challenge when I first came to this program was really getting comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable. You should really seek out experiences in your academics that feel not nice. Like maybe you are in a group and one person is the more technical person and can code better, and you're better at writing. You should switch roles, and you should really try to learn the other aspect that you're less familiar with, and really get comfortable with the idea that, you know, this is uncomfortable, but you can figure it out. And as long as you have the determination to try and figure it out, the resources and the people to ask questions and the internet, I think anything is possible, really. So I really would recommend that to anyone who coming into any of these programs. Really get comfortable with just not knowing all the time and wanting to learn more and get better.
Great, thank you. Well, we're going to move on to the questions. So before I do, I'm going to say thank you and goodbye to those who are watching this recording. If you want to learn more, have a look at our Instagram account, LiU University, which our students take over for a week each. And also we have blogs, international students blog at LIU, which is also it's a fountain of knowledge, and it's current students sharing their lives here, and not just the academic side, but the other side as well. So check that out. And thank you for joining us.